This is the first of 2 days that we'll be together today and then a week from now, same time. So let's get started. This is called Introduction to Schoology Courses, and hopefully you are Fort Wayne schools, if I have my facts straight. I'll tell you a little bit about myself to get started. So my name is Jake Gavand, and I am a professional development specialist with Schoology. I have been a teacher, school counselor, and doing PD like this for closer to 25 years now. I made this slide a couple years ago, but it's been 24 years now. I'm from the Midwest, so I live in Minnesota now, although I've been in a couple different states over the years. And I still am a teacher at this point. I pick up, I'm in a different time zone than you, so I actually will start my workday after our training is over. Um, so hopefully I have a good perspective. I've taught at a lot of different levels from elementary school, middle school, and now I even work with high school in an online school. So um, hopefully I can share from about 7 years of experience with Schoology and help out with any questions and things you have. So because we can't be together in person, I do usually show the family picture. But so I've got 4 kids of my own as well. I've got one that should be getting up pretty soon, who's going to be headed to preschool today. That's my youngest, Claire. And then I've got a couple boys in high school, and my daughter is in nursing school at a local college. So this was us before Christmas this year. We've actually had a pretty mild winter in Minnesota for what we're used to. We had a couple weeks of really nasty weather in February, but other than that, um, it's been pretty mild year. And we had weather like this that you see in that picture up until Christmas, which is pretty unusual for us. Usually we'll have a lot of snow before then. So, and I know you guys are just a little to the east of me, but you probably got hit with that really nasty cold snap too in February. So let's just talk about the goals for our time here in this course, and then pretty soon we're gonna do a discussion in Schoology where all of you have a chance to tell me a little bit about yourselves, and that'll be helpful as we go. So we're doing Intro to Schoology courses, and there's basically 3 main goals with that. The first one is to practice using some of Schoology's communication tools in courses, learning about organizing and editing materials in courses, and then also look at, what are the grading and feedback tools that are provided in Schoology. So that hopefully we'll be able to do a good job with those and any of your questions as well, both today and a week from now on that Monday. So let's just start really with a baseline before we jump into Schoology. Spend a few minutes. Some of you may have tried out some things in Schoology, and others of you might be very new to it. So I don't want to assume anything, and I want to kind of do some level setting right away. So we're going to start with the most basic question here, and at least take a minute or two and answer it. So that question is, what is Schoology? If maybe it's you meet a parent teacher conferences, or you see someone at the gas station, you're getting your coffee, and there's a parent of one of your students, and they say to you, what is this new Schoology thing that you guys are starting to use? Um, the question's probably a little easier to answer now than it was a couple of years ago. Almost everyone now is used to some sort of a learning management system, whether it be a free one like Google Classroom, or one like Schoology, which is a paid enterprise version learning management system. So just really quickly, here's the boilerplate definition. It's what's called a learning management system. I used that phrase a moment ago, and that has an acronym, LMS, but it has tools for your school to create content, design lessons, and assess student understanding. So all of those things wrapped up into one. Now we're going to talk about the 3 areas of Schoology briefly, and then we'll have you jump into Schoology. Hopefully you do all know your logins. If not, maybe someone on this call is able to help with that if some people are not sure. Uh, so there's 3 areas of Schoology, and they're found in the top menu when you log in. So we'll look at those in a moment. But and I have resources at the top, but there's courses, resources, and there's groups. And so I just want to talk about the difference between those 3 areas here as we get started, just to give you some kind of a big picture. So I have resources at the top because that really is a place where you can save things, keep them for later, really organize them, so that as you use Schoology for a few years, your resources area is going to be that place where you kind of keep like a library of whether it's courses you teach or even individual tests and quizzes and things. You can organize it however you want. But it really is a virtual file cabinet. So I know, I believe you're a district that uses G Suite or Google's tools. So very similar to Google Drive, but it's for Schoology stuff. So, for instance, if you design a Schoology assessment, or you have a Schoology discussion you built, or a Schoology assignment, those things work in Schoology, but not outside of Schoology. So those are things that you need to be able to save somewhere and organize. Now, courses is down on the lower left, and then there's groups on the lower right. And you'll see there's arrows going back and forth between all these parts of Schoology. And that's because if you have something in your resources or in a group that you're working with other teachers, maybe you have a PLC structure where there's some of you that work together, or a department or a grade level, whatever it is, you might have a group with some other teachers. You can also have a resources section there. And that's really nice because everyone can share those materials. And the arrows going back and forth just signify that if you have something saved in your resources or a group's resources, you can very quickly move it into a course you're teaching with students, or you can save a copy for yourself in your own personal resources. And likewise, if you're teaching a course, like maybe that first year you're using Schoology, you're like me, and you stay like maybe a couple days ahead of the students all year long. But at the end of the year, or at the end of the semester, I had a course I kind of liked, and I wanted to be able to save that. And so I might save that in my own resources, or save it in a group with other teachers where we're all saving our units so we can share them. So the arrows just mean that things are very, very portable within a matter of less than a minute from one area of Schoology to another. So courses, let's just talk about that. That's where we're going to spend the lion's share of our time in this training today and on next Monday. But and it really is the backbone to teaching with Schoology. That's where you have you can distribute materials to students, whether that's just as simple as links and files, PDFs, but you can also create assignments and discussions. You can create assessments. There's a really powerful assessment tool within Schoology, and we'll spend at least a half hour to 45 minutes on that next Monday. So you're doing all of that, and you're also giving feedback to students on how they're doing. There's a way to keep track of that, and keep track of grades in Schoology. But then there's also a lot of communication tools. So when you have a course with your students, you have the ability to share updates and announcements to your course has an automatically created calendar. So, as you put due dates on different things, those will all pop up there on that calendar. So we'll talk about that as well. And courses are governed by start and end dates. And I believe I don't remember, I work with a lot of schools. Do you all use, it's either eSchool or PowerSchool? I didn't remember which one, but maybe someone could put that in the chat, what your student information system is. But my main point is that, courses will come over into Schoology from your student information system, and those start and end on certain dates. So in Schoology, courses will automatically get archived after that grading period ends. Yeah, Sandy, thank you. I see a couple of you mentioned PowerSchool. So yeah, so Schoology and PowerSchool have a great integration. They're actually part of the same company. So when courses end in PowerSchool, usually you'll find a day or two later they get archived in Schoology, and you can still get at them. Maybe even your students can, but it's just kind of an automated thing, which is handy. So groups are over on the right side. We'll talk about those before I have you jump into Schoology. Those are very similar to courses, except that you're not really assessing students. So there's a lot of communication and collaboration. You can certainly communicate, share resources. They're really good for, maybe you're an advisor or a coach for a club or a team. They could be for a PLC or a faculty, all the teachers in a particular school or grade level. You could have parent groups. Maybe you have a PTO or PTA in your school, and maybe you want to give them like a district sanctioned official place where they could, keep their calendar keep all their files and documents and keep track of things. So there's multitude of reasons to have groups, and they're really, really good. We're not going to focus on them too much in our training, but I want to tell you about them. And what you learn about courses, you'll find when you go into Schoology groups, you'll know how to do it because the controls are very similar. It's just they have a little different purpose. Groups don't start and end on specific dates. So if you are, let's say you're the coach of the volleyball team or the robotics club, or maybe you're the head of a PLC lead or something. So you could have a group that lasts for years and years and years. So um, it's up to you when you archive that group, or if you want to just totally get rid of it, delete it, you can do that as well. So um, that's a little bit about groups. So before I move on from this, our next step is we're going to actually go into Schoology and do some things. But I want to pause before I do that just to see if you have any questions. Go ahead and unmute and ask, or put them in the chat. It might be that I tell you, hey, we're just going to get to that soon, but I just want to make sure we've talked a lot. I've talked a lot, so give you a chance to ask questions. I'll pause for a couple seconds.
Hi, this is Scott from Curriculum.
Hey, Scott.
I have been telling my teachers this and just assuming it's going to be possible, but I want to confirm now that they're going to be able to sort of pack up in a common cartridge file what they have in their Power School Learning and put it in Schoology and import it.
You know, that is not something that I can show you where that happens. Yes, lots of other learning management systems um, produce a common cartridge file, like you say. And so if you do have a common cartridge file, yeah, I can show you where that can be imported into Schoology. Yes.
We don't have to do it in this intro session. I was just wondering if it was possible, so that's good to know.
Yeah, yeah. What I would say is early on here, I'll show you where you do that, and then you'll have to experiment and see. So I came from a different learning management system as well, and the district I work with most did. They came from one called Moodle, and Moodle also, you know, like a lot of them, could produce a file like that. But you know, when it comes in, there's often some formatting and cleanup that needs to be done. So it's not necessarily going to take full advantage of the way that Schoology could do it. So you know, there's just, but the raw material is there, and it saves a lot of time. So yeah, I think so. I think the answer is yes. I don't. I'm not super familiar with Power Schools Learning, but um, I'm guessing the answer is yes. So all right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, and I'll put this in the chat as well. So this is an access code for a training course I put together, and you'll want to jot this down. I think, I believe that very last character is a C. I don't know why it cut off like that. It must be a C. Um, I'm going to escape out of this, and I'm going to copy and paste that into the chat as well. So this is what's called a access code if you haven't used one before. And this one's for a course. I'll put course in parentheses here, and I'll post that. So it just went into the chat as well. That access code is going to be what you need to join my training course. Now, you won't normally have to do this with your students. They'll just be in from your connection with Power School. But if you do have, like, let's say you're the coach of a certain team, um, or an advisor or something, you may have some students join like a group or something. There's group access codes as well. This is actually a course access code. And Rachel, I can see, thank you. Looks like you're giving people instructions, how do they even get to Schoology? And so great. All right, so I'm going to jump over to Schoology, and again, we'll come back to this access code, and I'll show you how to use that in a moment. So when you first are able to sign into Schoology, hopefully that works well. You will likely land on either recent activity or course dashboard. I'm guessing it's recent activity, but some schools choose to have people land on the course dashboard, so it could be there too. So we'll talk about those in a moment. I'll give people a minute or so to log in. When you do log in, your screen will not look exactly like mine. The reason is that your landing page and all of Schoology really is going to be very customized to you. So for me, I'm seeing on my screen, these are different groups or courses that I'm part of. So this is for professional learning. That's why it says this lady, Katie, posted this to this group. Well, I'm part of this group, so that's why I see this. Um, this is sort of similar to a social media feed where you see the most recent posts coming from things that you're part of right on top. So, you know, things can get buried after a day or so. So, all right. So hopefully people have had success signing in. And what I want to do is I want to show you where you can put in that access code to join my course. Now, before we do that, you can see in your top menu, yours may look similar to mine, could be different colors. Probably your school's logo is up there. Um, by the way, I really like Fort Wayne School's logo. I used to help design logos, and yours is one of the best I've seen. Some districts um, don't keep it simple enough and things, but yours is really nice, easy to recognize and see. So you'll probably see a logo. Maybe yours still says Schoology up there, but when you click on that, it'll just take you back to this area wherever you sign in. But then you'll see those areas that I spoke about: courses, groups, and resources. And so, if you click courses, that's where you'll see up to 12 tiles for courses that you teach. And I don't know if you have those there yet or not. Sometimes when I lead these trainings, schools have already loaded courses for teachers. Other times they're waiting. So maybe some of you are testing. But at any rate, that's where you can get to up to 12 of your courses. Groups is similar. If you click groups, if you have any groups yet, you'll start to see tiles for those groups, and you could select them. And then finally, resources is over there. And I will show you something there just because of Scott's question earlier. Um, Again, resources is kind of like your Google Drive for Schoology, where you can save everything. Um, and so this is my home area of my resources, but resources actually has several sections to it. If I look on the left side, these are my personal resources, but you can explore the public resources. Those are things that other Schoology users have shared that other people could just make a copy of and use. Any groups that you're part of, this is another way to get to their resources. And then apps, we'll look at this in just a moment because I want to check something. It sounds like you're a G Suite district based on even what you said about logging in. So we'll come back to apps, but I want to answer Scott's question first. So if you've been using like Power School Learning, like was mentioned, and you have what's called a common cartridge file, right here, there's a little arrow, kind of right in the middle, a down arrow. Um, and if you click that, you can import files of different sorts. And so, Scott, my recommendation to you and anyone that's working with you that's trying this is to try the import process. And um, you may need to contact Schoology's technical support if you run into some issues, but they should be accessible to you as part of your purchase of Schoology. You have access to contact their tech support. At least there should be 3 people in your schools at least that have the ability to chat or email or even call by phone and talk to their tech support. So that's where I would try that right there, the import. All right. And then the other thing I wanted to show you here in the resources is, so again, personal resources is lit up. But if I go down to apps, those of you that have signed in successfully, okay, Rachel, thank you for that update. So um, Power School Learning must not be able to do that yet. Okay, very good. Yeah, definitely. Now, while you're purchasing, is the time you'll have the most leverage to get them to do that. So. Um, Anyway, so apps on the left side there. if you would select that, I want to check in with you because you probably have some things in your Google Drive that you want to use with students. Um, Over on the left side, you may already see the Google Drive Resource app. That one might have been installed for you. If you don't see it, you can click on this little Install Apps link, and you could choose to have the Google Drive Resource app installed. Either way, and I do recommend doing that. You'll have to approve that connection. You'll have to be able to, if you do this, you'll see a message like on my screen that just says, do you agree to share information between these two systems? They can't do that without your permission. So once you do that, you can go ahead and you can choose the Google Drive Resource app. And I do recommend that if you use Google Drive. There's a similar process for OneDrive if any of you use Microsoft's OneDrive. But once you do that, over here, you'll have to sign in for the first time. And once you sign in, you will start seeing things populate or show up that are from your Google Drive. We're not going to do anything with these yet. I just wanted this connection to be there because it allows some things that I'm going to be showing you later. So again, connecting Google Drive can be wise. Sometimes I will see folks tell me, hey, it didn't work right away. My encouragement to you, if you don't see things start to pop up after you sign in, is to go back, click on the logo in the upper left, go back to the main page, and then come back into resources and check again, because sometimes you either need to refresh or go to a different area of Schoology and come back. And then you'll see when you go into resources and apps, then you'll start to see all of those items from your Google Drive showing up. So, all right. Any questions or comments before I move on from this? We're not going to do anything with this yet. Always have to have a little extra wait time with training like this. I can't see everybody as well. And all right. So what we're going to do now is I am going to pop over to courses, and you should do the same. And when you click courses, if you have any courses already or you've been playing around, you'll see them. If you're brand new to it, you probably won't have anything unless it came over from PowerSchool. But after you click courses, your name is over on the right side, and underneath your name, there's a link that says My Courses. And so you'll want to click that link. So you have to click courses first, so that'll be lit up, and then My Courses under your name. And that takes you to an alphabetical list of any courses, but it also gets you to these little blue buttons. That's what we're trying to get to. So one of them says join a course, the other one says create course. So what we're going to do first is have you join a course. We're going to have you join my my training course for today. So if we click join a course, a dialog box or box pops up where you can put in that access code, and I will read this off to you. So it is, and by the way, you don't need capital letters. You don't need the dashes. You just need to put in the alphanumeric characters, so the numbers and the letters. So it is 7Q5N3CT5. Then it's another 5B6GC. So if you put in all those characters and click join, you will be joining my training course. So I'll give you a moment to do that. All right. So if you didn't have any courses yet, now you have one. In fact, you can check by clicking courses or just looking in your alphabetical list. My alphabetical list is very long because it's from lots of different school districts, but I can find it. It's in the Intro to Schoology courses section, and it's the Fort Wayne section. So at any rate, you've just joined a course. And the fastest way for you, if you don't have too many courses to get there, is just to click courses and you'll probably see it there. Now I'm going to click back out of that, and I want to show you something over here on the right. So we joined a course, but you also have the ability to create a course. And so my recommendation to you, if you don't already have a practice course where you can try some things as we're learning, um, I'm gonna have us go through creating one. And so I want you to create one. But the other thing I want to tell you is you can reorder your courses. So if you click reorder courses, all the courses you're teaching, um, it's pretty easy for you to put them in any order you'd like. So you can drag them up and down. Now, only 12 of them, and it's signified by this little blue line, says courses that appear below this line will not appear in the courses dropdown. So some of you may if you're a specialist or like me, for some reason you're doing a lot of PD and you have a lot of courses in Schoology, you may have more than 12. And so every so often, um, even sometimes on a certain day, depending on what I'm doing, I do reorder my courses so that it's easy for me to find the ones I want. So most of you won't have that issue, but just so you know, you can put the courses in whatever order you'd like, and that will affect the courses menu when you click it. So I'm going to close this. All right, the other thing I'd mention to you is I'd like all of us to have a practice course, or I like to call it a sandbox. Um, if you click that create course button, the blue one, we can make one of those quickly. And then even as we work today, or especially next time, you'll be able to try some things along with me. So create course, and you could call this whatever you'd like. If you want to call it practice, um, that's fine. And you may want to put your name in front of it. So I found Schoology starts cataloging courses for a school. So if everyone has the same course name, that can cause issues. So my tip for you is maybe put your last name and then practice after it, or playground or sandbox, whatever you want to call it. Um, and then the only things you need to fill in are anything with an asterisk. So if you're fine with section 1, that's fine. I'm going to change mine to Fort Wayne. And then you do need to put in a couple other pieces of info, like a subject area. You can leave it other, or if you want to choose one of these, you could do that. So for instance, I could say this is professional development, and I could do that. Level is kind of a grade level thing. You can even put in a range of grades. So if you're a middle school teacher, maybe you put in 6, and then you can add a range. So I could say 6 through 8 if I wanted. I mean, this doesn't really matter for a practice course. It's just information about it. And then the grading periods, yours will be different than mine. Um, those are um, those are different. If you see any that are bold, those will be current grading periods that are going right now. So I could check the box there. I see in the chat, E. Grove asked, how do you edit the title? So I'm assuming that you're talking about the course name field. So if you click in that box, I know sometimes you get all these suggestions. You can click outside the box; those will go away, and then you should be able to change this to whatever you'd like, and just type. Um, I don't know, unless for some reason, um, I don't think that'd be the case though. Oh, after you've already made it. Okay. um, So you were a quick clicker. I'll show you that when we get there. I'm not on a screen where I can show that. You'll have to go to what's called the course options menu. So, all right. So after that, we'll create this. Yep. So E Grove, you're like me. You think you know exactly what the person says, and then I click ahead and I get lost. So yeah, no worries. I do the exact same thing. All right, so after you do create a course like this, it takes you right into it. And what I was referring to was the course options menu. So right here, you can change the image that goes with your course, but underneath that, there's this little menu that only people who are course admins like you will have. And so when you click that, you are able to edit the info about the course, and that's where you can change the name. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you. So Rachel's clarifying something that um, So those of you that didn't notice that in the chat. So if you're able to see your official courses that came over from Power School, so your Fort Wayne schools courses, those I don't know, maybe you don't even have the ability to change them in permissions. So don't change the names of those. Um, some schools, the permissions are there that people could change them, but that's discouraged unless you have some sort of agreement about the kind of the format of the naming. So don't mess with your official courses is the message. But this is a practice course, so you can change it. Hopefully I said that well. Okay, so in a course like this one, where you're the administrator or the teacher, you'll have this course options menu. You'll also have an add materials button. Now, in a moment, I'm going to have you go to our training course where I'm the teacher and you have joined as students. So you won't have all the same controls that a teacher would in there. So we're going to jump over to that one here now. So let's leave this one alone. We'll be back. But in courses, if you could go to the Intro to Schoology courses one, that's the one you joined of mine. Let's do that. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to try some things. So first of all, in this course, we're on the materials page. I've added lots of materials, more than we're going to get through in these 2 days we work together. But that's okay because I wanted to give you resources for your own self-exploration after. What we're going to do right away, though, I have a discussion for us, and you can see it over on the right side in the upcoming column. It's called Introduce Yourself. And if you would select that, please. I'll read the prompt off to you. It's a lengthy one, but it won't take too long. It says, welcome to Schoology. We can't wait for you to learn about what Schoology can do for you. Use this practice discussion to introduce yourself to your teammates and the Schoology trainer. Please share 3 things. Number 1, your role in your district. So if you're a 5th grade teacher, put that. If you're a curriculum specialist or technology coach, put that, whatever it is. Second item, something you've heard about Schoology that excites you, or maybe a question that you have. And finally, something fun you've been doing this past year. We've had such an unusual year to stay sane and positive. So if that's artwork, if that's running or biking or taking walks or whatever that is, binging on Netflix, I don't care. So something fun you've been doing to stay sane and positive. And I'd like you, as we go through things, try testing out what different materials in Schoology can do. So if you want to try adding like a picture or audio or video to your post, I said extra credit. That's a little tongue in cheek, but I'd encourage you to try that. See what Schoology can do, kind of kick the tires as we go. So I'll give us about 5 minutes to post and to then maybe respond to a couple of your classmates. If you get done with all those things, you could start exploring this training course that I gave you. So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back together. All right. All right. Sorry, everybody. I took an extra moment. I had to grab something that I needed. I forgot about. So hopefully everyone was able to, I'm going to refresh this discussion. We'll take a look at it. All right. Well, good. So couple things about this, and we'll certainly take questions. When you, um, as a teacher, create a discussion, you have a decision whether or not um, you want to have it graded or not. So a lot of times I won't grade discussions, but this one I did set up with grading so that you could at least see, what's possible. So I can look and I can see, boy, you guys did a great job of really responding to each other and posting. Um, I see all sorts of things I've been doing too. I've got my kids too. My daughter right now. I see someone. Alice, you posted about TikTok. My kids are my youngest is still looking at all these remixes of the sea shanty TikToks with cats and all sorts of stuff in them. But okay, I see some people posted pictures, videos. Sometimes you'll see as well, so Eric, I haven't looked, sometimes you'll see a video looks like this, and sometimes that means that it's still processing. Other times, the format of that, um, I'm not gonna mess with it too much right now. There's a couple things I've sometimes seen, sometimes sideways pictures, and sometimes some video formats when we try to load them get a little wonky, and so you'll have to play around. Um, I don't see anyone with sideways pictures in here yet, but okay, we have Bitmojis. All right, very nice. Well, thanks everyone. So just want to show you, so Allison, I see your picture there and everything. So what you can do is when you're grading them is you'll see this little symbol off to the right. So I'll just show that. If you click on that, as a teacher, if this was a discussion that was just scored with points, you could just put points right there. But this one had a rubric attached, so that's why I see that little symbol. So when I click that, I'll see the different criteria. So I can see who it is that I'm scoring. I can, have read their post, and then I could score based on the criteria I set up. So the introduction, yep, sharing Schoology, and then sharing something fun. And then you can even do things like I said, I could give extra credit for things like pictures or videos. So I could give 7 points if I wanted. So you're even allowed to override that if you want. So once you've scored a discussion, you'll see a check mark there next to it. I'm trying to think what else to show you about that. Oh, and anytime you're, a discussion with a good sized group like ours can get pretty lengthy. And so if you look, there's some buttons to quickly, this expands or contracts the comments, but then this would jump me all the way back to the top. So there's some quick ways to get back, just navigating with those little buttons over there. The other thing as a teacher I have with the highlight user is I can see people and I can see how many times they've posted. So I can see that myself and my practice student and a couple of us maybe that are just watching didn't post, but otherwise I can see, whether it's, Edie, Sandra, Shannon, I can see, how many posts people made. And so this is also counting replies to others, not just their initial post. So that is how that works. All right, so let me see whether it's in the chat or the just unmuting yourself. Before we move on from this discussion, does anyone have any comments or questions about what they've seen there? We will give you an opportunity to build some things in a little bit. I'm trying to think today. Yeah, we should have time today even to try to at least build some, maybe not assignments and discussions. That'll come next time, but we'll be able to build some other things here before too long. All right. Okay. So if you all would, go ahead and if you could scroll back up to the top, no matter where you are in the discussion, you could even use that little button I showed you, the scroll to top. Um, let's look around this course a little bit. So you don't see course options on your screen, but I do, and that's because I'm the teacher. And so one thing I can do as a teacher is I could send a message right out of that menu. Now, a message is like blind copying. Um, it could be a direct message to a couple people, but it also, if I click send message, I'll show you what's possible. In this area, you can send messages to all the members of your class at once. Or when the point comes that you add parent accounts in your schools, and I don't know at what point that would be, but you also will see if there's parents associated with your students, you're able to send messages to parents as well right there. So you could send them to all the members of the course, um, just the members, which would be like the students, or the parents as well. And so that's kind of a nice way to send it. It's like blind copying everybody. So if anyone responds back to you, it would just come to you. This is this is not going to every, if one of your students or one of the parents responds back because maybe you sent a message that said, hey, progress reports are coming up on Friday or something, um, and they have a question about it, it's not going to go to everyone. So all right. Let me keep going. I see in the chat someone asked a question. Oh, so guys, some of you are sending like private messages to me. It's hard for me while I'm doing training to read those and respond to them. So I probably, as long as they're a general interest question, will read that out. Okay, so thanks, Rachel, for answering that. Yeah. There's not. This is not another platform usually where students are messaging each other. It's generally just they can message their teachers, or parents can send a message to the teacher, or the teacher can do that. So thank you. The other thing I'll mention here about messages, and I'll send everyone a message here. So I'll just say welcome. I'll just say glad to, whoops. All right, so I'm just sending a quick message. I'm glad to be working with all of you as you learn Schoology. One thing to note, this is kind of a light version of like, email or something. And so you can attach things like files or links. You could attach something from your resources. And you also have the ability to make a quick audio video recording if you want. And we'll come back to that later, but that is right there as well. And so you can send that. And if all of you, give that a few seconds, when you refresh your screen now, you will see a little one by that little envelope icon up at the top by your name. And that just signifies that you have a message um, you know, from me in this case. So just to clarify too, students can only message their teachers. There's no student-to-student messaging. So I know one or two of you had sent me messages about that. And so, but then Rachel, you addressed that. Thank you. Okay. So let's go ahead and click back where it says materials there on the left side. And let's look over what's here on this main page. So this is one of the main areas of a Schoology course that students will interact with, and this is called the materials page. In fact, by default, this will be like when someone comes into your course, this will be where they land. There is another area that students could land, and that's called updates. And so we'll get to that in a moment. But just show you what's here. So I've got, this is what's called a page. That's that little symbol right there. And it's a very simple page. It has some text and it has a couple of links on it. It has the kind of the agenda or the plan I'm following, and it has those slides that I started with. I'm actually going to be, after today's session and then next time, I will also add right up at the top here, probably right under this, the videos of our sessions. And so that's going to be right there. The other thing is I've got a number of folders. So ideas and examples has a whole lot. We're gonna look at some of those in a moment. A lot of the things that we are trying together, like that discussion, those are in this Be a Student folder. The reason that you see it over here as well is as soon as you put a due date on something, it pops up over here. So I can expand or click on this Be a Student folder, and I would see a number of different things like this Introduce Yourself discussion and some other things we're going to try. But um, they won't pop up over here in the upcoming unless you add a due date to them. So that's a really important thing to know. And in fact, this calendar, you can even click on the calendar icon here, is just a kind of more of a calendar version of that. So this is those three things that have due dates on them. This one today, Introduce Yourself, and then there's a couple others for next time on the 29th. So those will pop up there. As a teacher, you also have the ability to add events to the calendar. So if I click Add Event, I could say, maybe today at 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. We'll use the one I used before. We'll say study session for science. So I could, put a description if I want. Ready for the quiz coming up. So join us to get ready for the quiz coming up. I could even attach a study guide if I wanted to that, so you can attach different things. I think I'll just take some kind of a little file there. There we go. And you can even do RSVPs if you want. So as a teacher, you can start to create, events and things coming up, just that students could see, and they would look like that. So you can do that sort of thing with your course calendar. Now, I think, some of you're teaching different levels. So students, they'll have a calendar in each of their courses, but if they click at this calendar icon at the top, they'll see a calendar that covers all of their courses in one. So because we're in one particular course, all you're seeing is the events or the upcoming due dates for things in that course. All right. So that's that calendar there, and that's nice to know about. I see in the chat a couple of questions. So, and I see, let's see. Yeah. So I'll do my best to answer them. These are pretty quick ones. So can extended time for assignments or assessments be assigned on an individual basis? Yes, they can. Um, it's interesting because usually, so if you give an assignment in Schoology, there is going to be a due date on it, but you can assign, like sometimes there's two versions of an assignment. So if I have students that in their IEP, or they have a 504 plan, or maybe they're an EL student on a special plan, they're being supported by other staff or have some special modifications, I can create two different versions of an assignment or an assessment, and I could assign one version to a lot of students and another version to a smaller group of students, or even just an individual. So that's the way that works, Anne. And so let's see, I'm looking at our plan. I mean, that's a fairly advanced question. It's good. I can show you some shortcuts to that if we have time. Certainly, I'll show you how to do it one way, an individual way, where you could do that for one student. But there's also some shortcuts if you have groups of kids like that have special modifications, like extended time. And then Edie, is there read aloud of assessments? So maybe. There certainly is built into, I guess I don't know what devices your students have. So whether it's Microsoft or Apple or a Chromebook, there's all the read aloud accessibility features built in there, and those are really good, by the way. But there's also, like someone mentioned, um, ships. Let's see, ships E01. I don't know what some of your names are when you just have those codes, but there is the ability when you make, whether it's an assignment or an assessment, for you to record audio for any question or instructions. So that's certainly certainly possible. And maybe someone could put in the chat, what sort of devices are your students using? Because that some of these are more your own tech staff can answer some of these questions too. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. All right. So let's just mention a couple more things before we jump into our next part, which is going to be to build some informational items. So there's the Be a Student folder, which has a bunch of different assignments and things that you can try. And then, um, you know, Schoology assessments and resources, that's a whole bunch of resources about how you can build assessments in Schoology. And some of the things that you were asking about, some of you were asking about, I'll just expand this and show you. So like this upload media for a question. So if you wanted there to be audio for students to listen to, um, that's a way you can create it. But some schools, so I see on there elementary uses iPad and Lenovo laptops. So Microsoft has their immersive reader. So things that and I think that might even work within the new Edge browser. So some of the materials on those like those Lenovo laptops, I would probably just maybe try using the Edge browser, which I think has a lot of that built in. Now, Schoology does also work with extensions that some districts have, like Read Write or Read Write Gold, and those are excellent too. And those work across systems like Schoology too. So that's kind of the short answer. Your tech staff would have to look at what's possible, and I know Apple products have their own accessibility features like iPads. So. Um, but certainly a teacher could upload media, and this link will tell you how to do that. Again, there's more here than we'll even be able to get to, but I try to anticipate what sort of resources you might need to. And then we have information on the gradebook and mastery and Schoology, and I didn't mention yet, but because you use PowerSchool, um, it's possible to do a grade pass back from Schoology or sync from Schoology to PowerSchool. And so if you grade and score some things in Schoology, those whether that's a rubric or just a straight number that you put in there in Schoology, that can pass into PowerSchool. And so finally, I've got a folder of resources there that are just general resources to learn more. So those, I think there'll be a lot here you can use for self-study far beyond our time together these 2 days. So what I wanted to mention next was in the ideas and examples folder, I want to go to one particular area of it. I think, yeah, this one. So there's other folders in here, and this embedded content in pages. So we're going to be going into our practice course here for the last, we've got about another half hour together. Um, and I'm going to have us all try building some things there. That's going to be the plan here for this last half hour of our time. And so embedded content in pages, this folder I think will give you some ideas when we get to adding things like pages in Schoology. So I want to show that right now, and then we're going to jump into go building. So this first thing in that folder is a link, which is going to be to Schoology's support center, and it talks about how to add content. I always like to give you something because you might forget exactly what I click or what I do as we go through it. And this will let you go back and look at Schoology's support materials about what I'm about to show you. So then here, I just have, these are several pages in this folder. And we're just going to look through them because I want to show you what's possible. So this first one is called Rainbow Connection Video. If I click on that, this is just a very simple page where you've got some text, and this is a video. This video happens to be from YouTube, but I don't know what sort of video sharing sites are allowed in your district or schools, but basically anything that any video can be embedded on a page like that. And so this video would just play right here if I click play. And this is Kermit the Frog singing the Rainbow Connection song. So I'm not going to play that right now, but I will go on to the next page here. By the way, inside of a folder, when you have things built, once you start selecting something in that folder, there are these little navigation buttons that pop up like previous and next. So like previous would take me to that link in the support materials. Next is going to take me to the next page called the Rainbow Fish. So I can always just go back and click on the title embedded content in pages. That's the name of this folder. So I can always go back there and I can just see it all again. But once you're in there, you can just start navigating through. Let's look at this one called Build a Fraction PhET Simulation. So this, if you're familiar with PhET, probably if you're a STEM teacher, I'm guessing you are. Um, PhET is a site out of University of Colorado. It is funded by the National Science Foundation and other donors, but they build some great simulations for STEM areas, math, science, engineering, that are from elementary school all the way through university level. This one happens to be more of an elementary school version, but there's all sorts of them. I am a math teacher too, and I use a lot of these with my students taking high school math classes. So this is this is really nice. And so all this is this is an embedded PhET simulation. So the students could start to work with it. They could choose one of the 3 activities, and anytime, so this is not Schoology. This is just an embedded resource or simulation from PhET. So I just want to show you how that works. Let me go to the next one. And this is just to give you some ideas. Okay, so this is Flipgrid. I somehow got signed out, but you can embed like a Flipgrid that you're doing with your class. If you're not familiar with Flipgrid, um, it's a sort of really interactive video-based kind of discussion platform. And sometimes they even have experts. Like they had a scientist down in Antarctica, a lady, and she would correspond with my students. That I did that a couple of years ago, but Flipgrid is great. They're actually a company that was purchased by Microsoft now, but and it's free for teachers. So if you've not used Flipgrid before, Flipgrids can be embedded like this. And I'm not going to click on this right now. Normally, if people are signed in, the little discussion will just pop up right here. Let me go to the next one just to show some examples. Okay, so this is a Google map. So my point here is that lots and lots of types of resources can be embedded on other sites, and Schoology makes it pretty easy. And I usually do this. These are all Schoology pages, they're called. And so this is an interactive Google map. I mean, I could zoom in on areas and so I whatever I wanted to do. This is just that Google map, and so a Google map can very easily be embedded on that. Let me see. Let's go to another one here. Okay, so this is Quizlet, and so if you've used Quizlet before, this is like the matching version of that, and it's going. But again, this is just students can choose different study modes. So this is just Quizlet embedded within Schoology. So some teachers like to embed it rather than just give kids a link to it. Let me see what else I have in here. Oh, that's another PhET simulation. Okay, so I'm just going to stop with this for now. So again, if you want to explore more, I've got a bunch of pages embedded here. I'm sorry, different resources embedded on pages. And I wanted to give you that as an example. And we're going to go through now in this last half hour, how do you make things like this? So we'll do a couple together too. So one more thing about navigation in Schoology is, so we can tell we're in this folder called embedded content in pages. And if you look up above that, it actually tells you where you are. So it says that's inside of this ideas and examples area, and that's inside of our course, Intro to Schoology Courses, Fort Wayne. So it depends on what, any of these are clickable. So I could go back to the whole beginning of the course materials page right here. That would be the same as if I selected materials again. Or I could go into that ideas and examples folder, and that has, I think it was 5 folders in there. One of them was this one. So if I click on that, you'll take me right into that ideas and examples folder, and we've been inside this one right here. All right, just to not get people too lost, I'm going to go back to the general materials area and just review. We were in this folder, and there's 5 folders inside of there. So that's what that looks like from this main screen. So that's where we were. All right. Let's go into our practice course and have you try some things. We're going to build some things together, some simple things today, but certainly we'll try building a page that has something embedded on it as well. So what I would like us to do is, if you click courses in the top menu, you should go and find your practice course that you created. Now, I have way too many courses, so I need to go, I'm going to reorder my courses again. So let me go into my courses. And remember, I showed you earlier that reorder courses button. I need to pull that practice course I created up there higher up. Let's see. And you can just, I have way too many courses for showing that in my top 12. So I'll put that one right there. Okay, so now it saves automatically. So now my practice course that I created is right there. So I can close this. And if I click courses now, I'll see that practice course is nice and handy now. So that's where I want us to go right now. All right, we don't have anything in here yet. I think I mentioned earlier that in this course, you can change the picture that's there if you want, but we're going to go ahead and try to create a few things. We're also going to, I got to watch the time. We're also going to go into this updates area and have you practice posting a few updates for classes as well, but not yet. So add materials is what you should select. And let's start by adding a folder. So there's all these different resources we can add. They're called Schoology materials, but we're going to hold off and we're going to add a folder first. So let's add a folder. And you could call this folder whatever you'd like. I'm just going to call this practice folder number 1. Really creative name. And you do have a number, I think 8 or 9 choices of colors for your folder. So if you wanted this to be a green folder like I do, I could just select that. Now you do have an option to add a description. It's not required. I mean, all I really need to do is put a title and click create, and that folder would be there. But I want to make sure you see what's possible. So a description, you could add text. The other thing you could add besides text, though, and this is what I often do, is you could add an image that represents that folder, what's in that folder. I mean, we're all visual learners to some extent, so I think that's good practice. And so if I want to add an image here, the way I do that is I click this little button called Insert Content. It's way over there by the spell check button. When I select that, your options may look a little different than mine, but image is that first one, and that's what I'm going to use. So again, I just click down in this box, I click the Insert Content button and image. So here you can choose an image that's saved somewhere on your computer. If you have the URL of an image from the web, you could do that. I don't generally do that for images, but you could. But I'll just attach something that I have saved on in my computer here. All right, what do I want to pick? Okay, so I could even choose like your logo. So I have this version of your logo anyway. So when you add an image, it might not be the exact size you want. The other thing that Schoology does is it always gives you a space up above the image. So Schoology gives you a space to type. And that's kind of nice. Sometimes I've added images to things and then I can't get my cursor up above it and I wanted to type something. So, if you wanted to type, you could. I'm going to delete that and get rid of that, but you just hit delete and you'll get rid of that space. So the other thing you can do now is um, that image is a nice size square image. So if I click on it again, I do get the option with that little landscape icon to edit some things. So like if I wanted all of my images to be a certain width, like maybe I want all of them to be 150 pixels wide, I could just put 150 pixels wide. If I leave the height blank, it will preserve the proportion between height and width. So I generally do that. Like if you're going to create a bunch of folders for your course and you want all the images to be the same width, just kind of for visual appeal, put I just pick a width and put that for them. And in a moment, we could just say update. The other thing though, while we're here, whenever you're adding images in a system like this for students, it's really nice to add a description for that image. The reason, and I'll just type Fort Wayne Community Schools logo. Um, what that is if you have any students that have a visual impairment, they're going to be using, as you may know, screen reader software probably. And so adding image descriptions is very important for them to understand what they're interacting with. So that's kind of an accessibility thing that is really good practice for you. So it doesn't take long, takes like an extra 30 seconds, and it helps out the kids. So I would recommend it. All right. So that's all I'm going to do in here. I'm just going to say update. And so now that, that image I added is now this width of 150. And if a student hovers over it that has visual impairments, they're going to be able to see, some text or hear that read to them what that is. So the other thing to mention is you do have some capabilities. You can put dates on folders. And the reason you might do that is maybe I don't want this folder to show up until, I don't know, a week from now, the 29th of March. So I could put March 29th here. And then under availability, I could say publish on the start date. So you can start to get um, kind of fine tune when things show up and disappear if you want. Like you can have them published during a date range or, just published or unpublished. For now, we're going to leave it published, but I wanted to show you that feature. Okay. So we'll click create and our folder is done there. There it is. All right. So let's add a few things to this folder. And one way to do that is by clicking on the name of the folder. And it takes you inside. In this case, it says this folder's empty. And you can start adding materials. So we'll just add some simple materials at first. Like this option here, the fourth one down, I guess, says add file, link, external tool. So file and link are within the scope of what we're going to be doing today. So let's click on that. And you can see you can choose a file or link. If you have those, you do need to be able to know where those are. So for instance, with file, if I click file, it'll take me to this screen where I think you can attach up to 10 different files here at once if you wanted. So if I click attach files, it'll take me right to my file picker, and so I could add any of these sorts of things. Let me see, I'll add picture or two, and you could add more than one, but if I just add one thing, I can add that, and that'll be the first thing in my folder. Since this one was a picture, it actually even shows me a little thumbnail. So why don't you take just 2 minutes and just add a few things to the folder just to practice that, and then I can see if you have any questions. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and add another file or two. Uh, Go ahead and try adding a link as well, but I'll come to that in a minute. So you'd be working a little bit ahead, but I'm going to add another file or two. You go ahead and try it too, please. Kathy in the chat, mine is going to Microsoft 365. The fact that yours is going to your, I believe, probably OneDrive or 365 is probably a relation to your laptop and the way it's set up with the file system. Like I'm assuming you can also access local files, but they might be synced. But yeah, we'll talk in a little bit. There's a couple ways to do it. So Shannon, I'm not sure if you're a tech coach or not, but you could work with staff. So if teachers have questions, like there's different ways you can access Google Drive. Like you can make Google Drive available through a Windows file system. I think it's called Google File Stream, or there's some other ones for enterprise. But I'll show you one way to do it in a minute. But Shannon may be referring to an even easier way where you just see it in your file system. So like if I click attach files, you can make it so that Google Drive shows up over here. But that's nothing to do with Schoology. That has more to do with your own tech team. I'll show you a different way though. So I'm going to add another file or two here. There we go. Okay. So I have now added a couple of files. I've added a picture and I've added a PDF to that folder. Um, I would like to add a link now before we, before we go too much further. And so maybe you have a website, and this one's maybe not the best example. Let me go to a website like, let me think here. Well, so maybe you're a social studies teacher, um, and you're going to go and you have obviously really well-known websites like National Geographic. So if you have a website like this, um, or even the stories, so maybe there's even a story you want to link to, but you go to whatever website you want and you just get the web address from the top and from the address bar, and you copy that, and then you'll go over to Schoology. And it's pretty easy. Under Add Materials, you'll click that same option we did before, Add File, Link, External Tool, but we'll choose that again. And then Link is right there. So it asks you to add, whatever that link is. So you can paste the link. In my case, it's nationalgeographic.com. And you can actually call this whatever you'd like. So I might call this, National Geographic. One more thing. So in Schoology, and I'll kind of try not to overwhelm you. There's a lot of options as you do things, but when you're adding links, this is particularly important. This little icon right here is lit up. It looks like I don't know, like a page with, some text on it as the icon. If I hover on it, it says display in Schoology. So what that means is it's going to try to show this link inside of Schoology. And that's not great for a lot of websites. There's certain ones that it works, but the um, the thing to show is that I often deselect this, and it will show that in a new window. Okay, so that just means it's going to take students to that link and in a new tab, and that's what I often do. So if I say add, that link will show up. I do see some of the questions in the chat, guys, so we'll get to those here in a moment. So just so again, on a simple level now, I've got a picture here of this dog. I can just go to the next thing this way. Then I've got a PDF that got added right here. It might take a moment to load. It's a 4-page PDF. Yep. And then the next thing is that link to National Geographic. Probably students, I'll go back to the practice folder. Probably students would have just clicked this link, and I had it set up to open up in a new tab. And so that's what happens there. So let's look at your questions. People were talking about adding things from Google. So remember earlier in the resources area, we added that Google Drive resource app. So if you click Add Materials, one way that you can get things from your Google Drive is click Add Materials, and down at the very bottom, Import from Resources is right there. So if I click on Import from Resources, it pulls me to my resources. So I might have things saved in my resources, but remember that in your resources, you had those areas down the left side, and one of them was apps. So you can go to your apps, and that's where you'd see that Google Drive resource app. And so here I could find things like maybe I wanted this, I don't know, probably this getting started with Schoology agenda. So you could select several things if you wanted. Like if I wanted to select a couple things, I could do that. And then you can import those in. So if I click import, I have 3 different options. And so the one that you normally will want to use is import link right there, import link. That's going to give your students a view only access to that item from your Google Drive. If you do choose import link, it even adjusts the sharing settings. If that's something that is private for you that you just created and you never changed the sharing, it will make it so it's view only. So that's import link. 99% of the time, that's the one that teachers are going to want to use. Now, if you choose import private link, that's going to preserve the sharing settings you have in Google Drive. So if that's maybe it's something you created that's like an answer key, you might want it there, and that's fine. But if it's just yours and you import it as a private link, then the kids are not going to be able to open that. And so some teachers do that on purpose. They like put an answer key there just for organization, and they have it, but the kids won't be able to open it. So import link, as I said, is generally what you're going to use. I'll mention the last one too, just in case you're curious. Import file actually takes like a static snapshot of whatever that is, and it brings it in. So if you do import file, you're kind of choosing to take away the power of Google Drive, which is, you know, if one of my students says, "Hey, there's a typo there, or that info was incorrect," the teacher can just change that, make it right. And if I've just imported the link to Google Drive, it's always going to take students to the current version, so it's perfect. And so generally, like I said, import link is what you'd choose. Um, yeah, Sarah, so I don't know. I don't have import link. I'll go through those clicks again. That's something I'm not going to be able to fix for you. If I look, so Sarah, if I remember earlier we went to resources, and I'll pop in here quick. And then if you're in resources under apps on the left side there, that's when we installed the Google Drive resource app, and that's why I'm able to do what I showed you. So until you have this showing some of your files from Google Drive, it won't work for you. And so if for some reason this is kind of glitchy for you right now, my recommendation is to refresh your screen. You might need to log out of Schoology and back in. The other thing you can try is under the options menu, you can look at the account, and it'll tell you what account is connected, and you could log out of that or connect a different account. But until you get this connected, what I was showing you won't work, and it might be a tech support issue if for some reason you're having trouble with that. So again, I can't fix it from here, but I'm just kind of giving you some tips. So I'm going to go back to the course here. Oh, I guess I meant to go into our practice course. um, Let me see. So someone asked, so if you import a link, it overrides Google settings no matter what share settings they have. It cancels that and makes it accessible to everyone. Um, so yeah, I mean, if the reason you'd be putting something in this folder is generally for your students. So all that all that I'm saying is, let me go back in this folder. If we import something from Google Drive here from our resources, generally we're saying the things that we're bringing in are things we want our students to have access to. So yeah, I mean, you want it to adjust the sharing so that anyone with the link can view. So um, this is not giving an assignment to students yet. I want to clarify. There's a different thing coming that I haven't shown yet, which is, what if I want to give all my students a copy of something to work on? That's different than this. This is just, so far, we're just adding reference materials for kids to look at, to view. So we've got a picture here, we've got a PDF, we've got a link, we've got a couple documents that they could look at. But there's nothing we've assigned them to do yet. These are just resources you've put in Schoology. Okay. All right. Yep. So this has nothing to do with editing right now. Thank you, Edie. Yep. I'm glad I'm glad you guys asked these questions, because it's very common that people are like, well, what is this exactly? Yeah. No, this is just informational things that we're putting in Schoology for our students to look at. Okay. So it's not going to be till next week that we look at building an assignment. So we will get to that. The next thing I want to show us um, is we're going to add a page, and I'm looking at time. So we're going to add a page fairly fast, and then we're going to wrap up with one thing. Some of you have asked about, making things available to some students and not others. So I'll see if I can touch on that at the very end, and then we'll continue with that next time too. So add materials, and now we're going to look at adding a page. So again, everything we've added, these are all things that are just informational things. So this is going to be called my demo page. Um, all right. So, and we could put all sorts of things on a page, and we'll put a few with a few embedded, oops, resources. Okay. So on a page in Schoology, it is a web page. It's a very simple web page builder. I generally in Schoology, when I build things, choose like 14 or 16 point font. So I'm going to choose 16 for now. And so you can add text to a page. And it could be formatted text. So you'll see you have things like, bullets, numbered lists. So I could see, if I do a bullet list, I could do that. Or I meant to hit enter first, sorry. So could be formatted text. So I could have, point 1, point 2, point 3. So I could do that kind of thing. The other thing you can do is you can add things like videos. Add an embedded video. So let's look at that. I'm going to go ahead to YouTube in a new tab. So I'm not closing Schoology here. I'm going to jump over in a new tab. In fact, I'm going to go to my National Geographic tab, and I'm going to change that to YouTube. And maybe I want to take, maybe this Major League Baseball greatest first pitches is perfect. So I'll go to that video. We'll pretend that this is what I want my students to. So this is illustrating one of those things that I think, we don't, when students go to YouTube or us as adults, it's like a black hole, right? A rabbit hole. We can waste a lot of time, all the suggested videos. So often you want to just embed a video from YouTube into your learning management system, Schoology. And so the way you do that is whatever type of thing you're wanting to embed, you're looking for is there a way to share it? Well, sure. Under a YouTube video, you've got a share button. So you can click that, and YouTube is a kind of a special case. A lot of places, like if this was a map, or I showed you those other things earlier, like Quizlet and PhET, you might want what's called embed code. But with YouTube, you can actually just copy the link. So Schoology makes it pretty easy with YouTube because they know that's so common. So you can just copy that link. I did. And now if I go back to Schoology, the way you add that video right there is you would click this little insert content button. We've used that before. And I am going to choose the first option, image or media. And here's where you do have a couple of clicks. This is upload would be if you had this saved on your computer somewhere. And we don't. This is a YouTube video. It's from the web. So I do need to click this from the web. And then you have to decide, is it a still image or media? Well, in this case, it's media. So you do have a couple of clicks, and then you can paste that, that YouTube video address. So again, I'll do that one more time just to see it again. So click here, and then I'm going to click Insert Content, and it's image or media. And then it's from the web. And it's not an image, it's media. So then I can paste that YouTube video and insert that. Again, it added an extra space. It always does that in case you want to type. And all right, so this is a placeholder for that video. I'm going to just so you can see what this looks like, I'm going to click Create now. And so you can look at your page. There it is right there. So you can see your text, you can see your video, which would play right there. So let me click back on the folder name here. Couple things here. We've only got a few minutes left. As you add things, you can drag them up or down. And so I could put that page at the very top. Maybe a lot of times in my folders, I put a page right at the beginning, which is going to tell the students kind of what to do or what to expect as they go through the other materials in the folder. So that is that. I'm going to go back. Anything you can edit. So I'm going to click the little edit gear on that and edit this and just show you. We'll add one more thing here. If I click after my video, let me go back to my 16-point font. You can also add things from your Google Drive. So this is kind of nice. when you're on a page, there's a pretty fast way to add things from Google Drive that are embedded. Like maybe you have a video in your Google Drive or a slideshow. What you can do, it's that same insert content button, but this time instead of image or media, you'll see the Google Drive resource app over on the right, over there. And that, this time, it should take you right in there. And so like if I wanted to bring in this slide deck, the slideshow, I can click the gear there and import that. Do you notice that it now, because I'm on a page, it doesn't just let you import the link or a private link, it also gives you the option to import an embedded copy of that slideshow. So that's right there. All right, so again, that's there. And so I'm going to delete that space. We're about out of time here, guys. I see Sarah posted an exit slip for all of you. So that's my signal to wrap up too. But this demo page with a few embedded resources. Now, if I look at that, I should see my video and that slideshow from my Google Drive. And so I could start clicking through that if I wanted. So. All right. Well, so for today, we are actually going to wrap up. Next time we meet, we're going to be working especially with assignments and assessments. Really, all we got to today was just the overview and showing some basic things here. So I would encourage you, and I'll try to take a look ahead of time, in the training course that you joined of mine. If you have some time this week, spend time going through some of the resources I've put in the ideas and examples. I think they'll give you all sorts of ideas, and they may even lead to some questions you want to ask me next time. Because we have a total of 3 hours, and Schoology is a big program. So thank you for all of that. Go ahead and I'll wrap up here. I can stick around for a few questions if people have them, but we're officially ending. It looks like the exit slip link is there. For security, it looks like you can't click on that link. You actually have to paste that into your browser. You probably figured that out. So Sarah had posted an exit slip. And we will pick up next time a week from now. So again, I'll stick around for a few minutes, but we're officially done here. So thanks, everybody. If I don't hear any questions in the next few seconds, I'll probably end this meeting. So it'll force all of you out at that point.